Good evening. Today is September the 9th, 2025. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another yet hour to be a prayer, God. Actually, God, that you'll bless our context as well as our viewers and their families as well. Please keep everyone safe. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. That was good, everybody. As you guys come in, please let me know what platform you guys are watching on. I just got a notification as I was going live saying that it's possible that it won't be showing on Facebook. So if somebody's watching from Facebook, please let me know if you guys can see me or not, or if I just need to try this again tomorrow evening. Like I said, they started to say that there was certain things that were going on with Facebook behind the scenes, so I'm not sure if it's actually showing on Facebook. I didn't get any notification from YouTube, so let me know which platform you guys are watching from. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get our Born Day shout outs out the way. Want to say happy Born Day to Lanisha Randolph, Miss Songstress herself. My man, True Success Ave, little bro. Happy Born Day, kid. Miss Mildred Sykes, Miss Emmeline Ducker Jenkins, uh, Miss Vicky Eaton, the twins, Vicky and TJ Eaton. Happy Born Day to both of you all. Miss Tamara Benoit. Irina Wilson, Miss Danielle Johnson, happy born day, girl. Saida Shakur, Miss Nicole Sampson, basketball extraordinaire coach out of here in the state of North Carolina, happy born day. Miss Jasmine Vaughn, Miss Jazz, Westside Rough Rider for Life, Mr. Melvin Ruffle, Miss Lonnie Hunter, my man Ronnie Brooks, the beautiful Cheryl Satterfield, uh, Tish Williams, Regina Howard, Sharonda Arnold Ocean, Nicole Williams, Mr. 54 on himself today, Westside legend, Pastor Brian Humphrey Sr., happy born day, Cap. Um, and last but not least, my cousins, Miss Brittany and Namil Lowe, celebrating on their birthdays actually today. It's funny because I was thinking that it might have been they were doing something different with their saying calling their anniversary or birthday, but come to find out both of them are actually born on the same day. So that's pretty cool, to have be married to somebody with the same exact birthday as you, like literally. That's pretty cool. So happy born day to all you guys again. Condolences to everyone that lost someone over the past week. I seen different posts with people notifying about different ones, nieces, nephews, aunts, cousins, brothers, sisters, children. So my condolences and prayers with all you guys that are bereaving in this season. No matter what the loss is or what capacity that you know them in, my prayers are with you, and that you get through this season in better days ahead. Um, Didn't have any particular main topics tonight. I did have a few things that I seen throughout the news and the current affairs that I kind of wanted to run by you guys, um, just to get you guys' perspective and you guys' take on it as well. But nothing major, not nothing educational. Next week we'll be back to our regular, informative. All the shows are interactive, so to speak. I really enjoy you guys in the comments because you guys make the show by yourself. That's I want to thank Sam Blue for always, stopping through and coming on with me. Because I was telling somebody else, and they was like, hey, you should do this and you should do that, and I'm like, at the end of the day, nobody really wants to see anybody sit up there and talk to a screen by themselves. It's not like we all in the same room, so I needed to be a little bit more inactive or it feels more comfortable or let's say I'm more at ease when I have somebody on screen with me. So I'm definitely, going forward, I will be definitely looking for like a permanent co-host, so to speak, and going down toward the future. But next week we're gonna have my man Terry Hardy on. He had posted a video of himself and the subject matter that he was talking about. I said it's something that we really need to talk about on the show pertaining to fatherhood and parenting, co-parenting, no matter what capacity is, different things. I had posted the video this week of the coach that went viral talking to the young man, and he's telling them, look, if you leave this football, I guess the young man was ready to quit the football team because he didn't like whatever, And the coach was telling him, he said, if you leave this field, I'm gonna be visiting you in 3 to 5 years, whether it be at the jail or in the funeral home. So don't leave. And he just encouraging them. And I thought it was a very powerful video because I do understand the importance of male figures in young men's life in particular. Not that young ladies don't need a male figure, but I know that it is very vitally important for young men to have a male figure in their lives. So that's one of the reasons that I posted the video because it really touched my heart. And it made me just think about all the different lives that I've impacted um, throughout my lifetime, especially in pertaining to younger men, whether it be classmates, nephews, kids that I coach through Pop Warner, people that I know through churches, different relationships, my family. Um, Knowing that you matter. We went to a family function last Saturday, uh, and it was funny as I'm seeing all my cousins, my first cousins, their children, they're adults now and whatnot. And every time somebody would introduce me, they'd be like, "Oh man, this is I got a different family name for those that don't know. If you know, you know." But oh man, this is him and this is him, and I'm like, "Yo, what is y'all telling these kids about me, man?" Everybody know who I am without ever meeting me. What are these different stories? But it's just important that we have those male figures for our young men because it definitely makes a difference. Whether it be a teacher, whether it be a coach, whether it be a pastor, whether it be an elder, whether it be a father, whether it be an uncle. It is very important and imperative that we allow um, men the opportunity to be a male figure, if not an active father um, or father figure, at least a male figure at the very least, is very important to these young men. And we were just talking about the state of the YNs and whatnot. So we're gonna really get into that more on next week with Terry when he comes on next week. But tonight I wanted to offer my condolences to the Reed family as well. The young man that plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. What's his name? I can't think of his name. Shoot, his name blows my mind right. Nazir Reed. Uh, his sister was found murdered due to DV. I'm trying to get better at not using the words that I'm not supposed to be using on lives or whatnot. But she was 28 years old. Just unfortunate. We got to do better as a community. We really got to do something about this DV and SAs that's going on in our communities and what have you. And it's just unfortunate. She, if I'm not mistaken, um, Nas Reed's sister. She was his older sister, but I believe she. I'm sorry, I have the article. Yeah, sister of Minnesota Timberwolves star Nas Reed gunned down by boyfriend in New Jersey. They were down there by Great Adventure, um, but she was only 28 years old at the time of her demise. The article reads: the sister of Minnesota Timberwolves star forward Nas Reed was shot and killed in New Jersey on Saturday morning. Authorities said. Torora Reed, 28, was found unalived around 11 a.m. Saturday with multiple gunshot wounds near an exit of an apartment building in Jackson Township, according to the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office. Uh, yeah, it's just unfortunate situation. Um, and we got to do better. Like we got to get to the point where if things get out of control and you guys for whatever reason you can't work things out automatically, just leave. Just bounce. And that goes for men and women too, because I've seen different stories. Um, Even with women, um, domestic violence is like is one of those double standards. We seem to take have more sympathy or more empathetic toward women. But I know personally, I know women that are the aggressors in some relationships and in fighting men and like we gotta learn that everybody, I don't care what your gender is, keep your hands to yourself, yo. Stop putting your hands on people and you ain't got to worry about or you shouldn't have to work. It's less likely that you have to worry about any repercussions when you keep your hands to yourself at the end of the day. But we got to do better. both men and women. We gotta put an end to this, and it should never come to a point, or we have a disagreement, or we feeling some type of way, or embarrassing one another, whatever the case may be, to where we get to the point where we're so mad that we literally want to take a life. That's not cool on no aspect of any way. So we got to do better as a community. Get people in your circle, change the circle or whatever. If you don't have anybody to talk to, um, there are plenty of hotlines. There are plenty of numbers that out there with people that you could call, people that you could contact. But we got to put a stop to this. Here it is, another young lady that's 28 years old is gone far too early over for whatever. It's still a fresh case, so we don't really have any details or particulars. I know the article that I did read earlier, they were saying how they both lived in Jackson. Like I said, I just know that that's where Great Adventure is in Jersey, down that area, which is about 45 minutes, an hour away from Essex County. But they wasn't sure if they actually lived together or what. There wasn't a lot of details, the information. And she was a graduate of Roselle Catholic there in Roselle, New Jersey. So, my prayers and condolences with him as well as his family, her friends and whatnot during the season. And we just got to do better. Just got to do better, man. I'm getting sick and tired of reading these unnecessary tragedies and unalive. Um, you have to see the Hey, what's good at? You have to see the video in Irvington and the Dollar Tree. Homeboy did everything not to swing on that woman. Oh yeah, I did see that. There. Let me finish reading the comment. You have to do everything to see the video in Irvington of the Dollar Tree. Homeboy did everything not to swing on the woman, and all the women in the store were trying to come at him. I find it. I'm going to forward to you. Yeah, I seen it. And now here's a couple of things with that. All right, yeah, because I was bugging on that one when I seen it too. One, I believe when I looked it up, as I did more due diligence after watching the video, it's I think they said it's like 2 or 3 years old now. Um, she was fired that same day. The young lady, the aggressor, she was fired that the same day, and if I'm not mistaken, they didn't disclose the amount, but he got a nice little check out of that. So I was definitely glad to see justice was served in that occasion because, like you say, he was avoiding her. She's chasing him back into the store, telling him to get out when he's walking toward the back of the store. So yeah, I watched it several times just to get all the different. Quite sure the security guard he lost his job as well because he was standing there just as confused as we were watching it. I don't even understand what the point. He ain't really get involved until 12 showed up toward the end of the video, but they were literally like, and she was the aggressor steady, and I was man, I got a bad habit of going in these comments. I try to stay out the comments, but I was agreeing with a lot of them because a lot of them were saying if he had a sister or a girlfriend, and this boy telling him like, Meech, don't do it, don't swing on him, don't swing on him. But yeah, no, she got this dude here. She done maced him, like everything. Like it was so crazy. Exactly. And like, what are you getting paid to do, bro? I'm quite sure after they see the footage, he was fired as well. Like that was his last day. Go find a warehouse job, whatever. Don't disrespect the warehouse workers, whatever. But security is not your calling, bro. You're not about that life. So find you a new career path. But yeah, man. And then it was like, then the other thing that really bothered me while watching the video was how aggressive she really was. Like, I don't know whether you need a man in your life when the last time you got, like, girl, you really need to chill out. It's legal there to participate. Take your mind off things. You got edibles. You got other ways to calm your nerves because I don't know what was going on in her life, but she was mad aggressive and she wouldn't let it go. And she's literally trying to fight a man. And that's the thing that always bothered me. You know what I mean? Even with all these things, different things that we be seeing here and there. My son sent me a video of a girl um knocking this dude out uh last week. And I've been getting people send. I don't know why people see funny stuff or think things that are funny. They send them to me. I don't know if they think I'm gonna post them or whatever. But me personally, I don't find those type of videos funny when I see a young lady knocking a dude out. You know what I mean? Because for the simple fact, um it's one of those double standards that I don't find amusing in no way, shape, or fashion. Because God forbid, like you said in the Dollar Tree video, God forbid if he had a swung on her like he had every right to do, with her steady trying to berate him throughout the whole store from the back to the end. Like, nah, man, ain't no man got no business putting his hands on no woman. Okay, but ain't no woman got no business fight trying to step to a man like a man too. I don't care if she knock him out, because I do know some sisters that can fight. Ed, you grew up in a house full of women. You got some girls out here that really know how to throw down and about that, like, want to smoke with a dude, but at the same time, stay in your place. You have no business fighting no man. You have no business fight. I don't care if you know that you can knock him out, because the minute that it goes left, oh man, he ain't no real man. It's like you're in a lose situation. So let's everybody just keep their hands to themselves. I don't care what gender you are. Keep your hands to yourself, because it's not cool at all. The smackdown was the other woman in the store where trying to grab the dude. Hey, and another thing, this is this how sick I am, man. This just annoying me. But I'm sitting here like, with everything that was going on, why was the people still standing in the line? Like, I would have, whatever I had, or whatever I was there for, I'd have been out. I wouldn't have been waiting to pay for that at that point, because the whole store was out of, like, the whole store was in chaos. And then the Jamaican lady, like, come on, man. She tried to get ordered back. Like, can't nobody control her girl, her friends, her co-workers. It was totally crazy. But I found it crazy that how the line just kept going long and longer for we were waiting. Clearly ain't nobody checking nobody out. I only got like a bag of chips. Like, I'm not about to rob the whole store, but y'all ain't gonna be missing a bag of chips. Exactly. And that was the whole point. That what made it so funny to me. Because when I seen that it was actually a security guard, like I said, I didn't even know what a security guard did until the very end. He was totally pointless. So I'm like, yeah, man, I'm out. I got my chips. I got my juice. I'm out. But yeah, man, we just got to do better when in terms of things like that, um, and just get back to the better community. I don't know what it is, man, and like I said, we hit it on a little bit earlier, and we'll get into it next week when Terry come on, because I don't want to be, seem like I'm talking about that all the time, but it's definitely an importance when it comes to these male figures, because you know we'll get into that part of it next week. But this is what I will say on it this week. Um, and this is to my sisters out here. And I don't mean this in no derogatory type way or a negative type way, but we have to allow men to be men in these young fellas' lives. So many times, and there's nothing wrong with mothering kids. And one of the things that I learned, I'll be going through my Facebook memories sometime, and I see when I was doing my spiritual devotionals every day, and come across some of them sometime, and it like, wow, that's good. I might need to have to rethink doing those again, because a lot of people were being blessed by them, and a lot of people were contacting me about them. So I might get back into that again. But one of the things that I'll be stressing in terms of that is a reason, and I don't really care about uh the marriages, same sex marriages, or whatever the case may be. When I say I don't care, I don't care. I don't have a pot to piss in, so it don't affect me one way or another. You marry I believe you have the right to marry who you ever want to marry. Um, I don't care. You're not marrying me, so I really don't I really don't care in terms of that. But one thing that it is when it comes to children is there is a reason that God designed it, or the Creator has designed it to where you need both a male and a female to procreate. Period. Now, not just the sexual act, because you don't have to go through the sexual act now. You got these intro, I forgot what they call it. I don't want to say the wrong word. Everybody laughing at me, but you got the intro pregnancies, um, whatever letters those they use for that. You have midwives. You have artificial insemination. You have all these different methods, the way that you can have it. So it's not about the sex aspect of it whatsoever. But the point that I'm trying to make is there's a role, whether you're talking about biblically, religiously or whatever, there are clear roles that each one has to play. A mother's job is to nurture. A mother's job is to cater to the development, all those different type of things. Where a father's job is to protect. A father's job is to teach. A father's job is to. We have two specific different roles that don't align. Now, can a mother, can a single mother raise a young man? Absolutely. Absolutely. Can a single father raise a young lady? Absolutely, he can. But it makes it that much more difficult because there are certain things, and I want to be clear on this because I used to have this conversation with my ex-wife in regards to raising our sons, a lot, and I didn't mean it I never meant it in a disrespectful way. I just was being my words have a way of coming across harsh at times, but people that know me always know. People that really really know me, they know the sentiment of my heart. And my thing would always I would say to her often was she like I don't understand why you would do this, or I don't understand why you would do this or that, and pertaining to the way I would discipline or the actions that I would take, what I would let slide, what I wouldn't, in terms of our sons. And my thing was always, I don't need for you to understand. You know what I mean? I don't need for you to understand the decisions that I make as a father for these young men because I have to stand for God to give an account on Judgment Day. Of He's going to ask me what exactly did I have to do. Hey, what's good, Jew? Always a pleasure to see you, man. Um, but God is going to ask me what did He assign me to do? What was I assigned to do as a father? And I can't I'm not going to put myself in a position to say, well, you know what? I had to be worried about what she thought or what this one think or what my mama thought or what my dad thought. No, that's not their responsibility. Being a father is my responsibility. So I don't need for anybody else to understand the role that I have to play in my son's life. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it, but it is what it is. Um, in the same way, I would never question her or methods on, what she decides to do as a mother because I don't understand. It's not my responsibility or my place to have to understand her role as a mother. There's a reason that again that you have to that is it works. Statistics show, and that's not me. That's not my opinion. If you look it up though, statistics show that most children um, that come from a two-parent household, they have a better outcome of life or the way of living, so to speak. And if it's not a two-parent household, that young man has some uncles or male figures that are in his life. That is proven. That is you can look that up statistically from any source that you want to, and it'll show that. There's a difference in when you have both presence. You know what I mean? Because I knew growing up in a two parent household, it was one thing when I get in trouble with my mother, but also know being real too, I could talk to my mom or this here and that did. I knew things that I put it like, okay, there you go. I knew things that I could get away with my mother. I wasn't going to even think about trying to get away with it with my dad because I already know my dad gonna read through it. Mommy gonna hear what I got to say. Dad, like, come on, bro, come on, man. I ain't no fool. You expect me to believe such and such and such and such. So, that right there, that's not something that we necessarily have to be taught. That's something that we are, that's just a part of our DNA naturally when we start to see how our father stances or you hear or you see in different sitcoms, for those that don't have a two parent or didn't grow up in a two parent household. Wait till your daddy get home. That was like one of the worst things you could ever hear. That was almost worse. Like, well, mom, won't you just go ahead and beat me now? Because it was more torture waiting for pops to get home because you was scared. You ain't know what pops was gonna do, what time he was gonna get in, if he was gonna have to wake you up to, like whatever. But it was just a whole nother level of anxiety as opposed to that not even being a factor. You know what I mean? So I think that is really important that even if they're not the biological father, stepdad, uncles, coaches, teachers, whatever the case may be, allow some of these men that are willing and capable and able to help assist you in raising these young men because when I look at these, we heard it all the time, especially when we were growing up and we were young and dumb and didn't care about it, at all ourselves. We were knuckleheads, a lot of us. But we always heard, each generation keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And when I'm seeing some of these different videos and what they put value in, and all these different, like, it is mind-boggling. Like, how do we get here, to where we are now? One thing I used to always tell people, a rhetorical question I would ask people is like, man, do you really think that Malcolm would have did everything that he did, or Martin Luther King would have gave his life for this dream that he had pertaining to us, if he could see the state of where we are now? Like, how disappointing! Like, that's like spitting in his face, or the memory of everything that they stood for, everything that they believed for, and everything that they fought for us to be doing half the stuff that we want to do now. And we got it. We came from a generation. My generation, we came from a generation where, it was more or less, you had to worry about your mother, you had to worry about your father, you had to worry about Miss Ann that lived across the street, you had to worry about John and Poo Poo and the corner boys. You know what I mean? You making sure you doing. I remember the first time called myself trying to get in the game. It's like, man, if you don't take your butt to church, you ain't about to be out here moving no pack. Like, get out of here, yo. It's like it was a different level of a hierarchy, and you knew you were trying to guide these people in certain things. Like, look, you ain't about that life, man. We kind of steer people away from that and help them, not make it bad. And you always have some knuckleheads, like Julian. But thank God, he gave his life to Christ and everything else to turn it on a new leaf. But I'm just joking with Jew. But it's so many times, man. It's like, where would we be if we didn't have the fools in our life, or the rich? Rest in peace, the rich. Those big brother figures, and those big unk figures that were in our lives to tell us like, nah, this ain't the path. Shout out to my guy, brother Lamar. I always talk about on the show, Lamar, Ked, my man Rodney, Kurt, all my OGs that were in church and everything. Me and Everett playing music and instruments together in church, and growing up in church, and taking me out to rondos instead of me being out on the street or on the block, whatever. We out here making music. We traveling to Connecticut. We traveling to New York. We going all these different places, just vibing off of music, and just keeping me occupied, keeping me very occupied. And it's like I don't find that a lot of times. And the whole point, I'm sorry, I then went around about, but it's like, well, a lot of times in this era here, we got these women. The reason I was talking about everybody, you had to worry about everybody disciplining you, is because a lot of these, we started seeing when we get to high school and stuff. Don't you touch my child. Don't you say nothing to my child. Don't this here and that did. And then we wonder why a lot of these men, or males, I should say, have grown up to be all these out of control, no guidance, young males. I don't call them in because you wanted to coddle them, and now I got a situation. I had a friend that was in a situation where you know um he was married at the time, and he was trying to discipline, or really try to be that male figure in his stepson's life. But the mother, look, you my husband and that's my child. That was up more or less her position. Things didn't work out for them, but years later, he's out here in the streets. He out here doing this. He out here doing that. He's out here wilding, and now you want to call back for guidance and, hey, listen, man. Well, no, like I was trying to avoid you having all these heartaches and crying all these tears years ago. But when I was trying to do it, you didn't want me to discipline that your son. That's not my child. You wouldn't allow me to be a father figure or help you discipline him. Now you gotta deal with the repercussions of the you gotta lay in the bed that you made yourself, from that mindset. And I'm not mad at him for that perspective, because I totally get it. You know what I mean? But we got to stop doing that as there have been times with female friends of mine, call me, hey, listen, man, I'm going to do this with little John. Can you call him, or can come by and talk to him, whatever the case may be? Yes, absolutely. You know what I mean? Let men be men, and we'll let y'all women be women. How about that? You know what I mean? Because it's important, and these children, they really need both of us. They need a mother to collar them from time to time. It just can't be 24/7. They need what a lot of men call tough love. I laugh about how a lot of my friends, growing up that had the fathers in there, and they would tell them like, "Look, you go out there and do whatever you want to do, but if you get locked up, don't call here because I ain't bailing you out." You gonna sit there, and you know what Mama gonna do? Mama gonna put that house up. Mama gonna trade the car in, sell the car, and all this there to get her baby out of jail because my baby can't make it in there. My baby ain't do nothing. And Father said it like, yeah, that boy did it. He guilty. Let his behind sit right there. I ain't, you know what I mean? It's just a different mentality, and I think that it's very necessary for us to both have them roles. And speaking of which, while I got some males in here, I'm not sure how many females in here. I'm kind of wanted to get in that too because I was reading this art. Well, I was listening to a take earlier this morning on Russell Wilson. Oh my God! And I'm not even gonna get into my Giants. Not even gonna get into football tonight. I was gonna get into it if Sam came on, but I ain't gonna talk about it too much by myself. But yeah, Sam, it's not Sam, but Russ. It might be time to go ahead and put those hang the cleats up, man. You really seem like you happy as far as being married, and some not that people can't multitask, but sometimes just keep the main thing the main thing. If that's what you really want to do, you want to be a father, you want to be a good husband, go ahead and do that, bro. You already made your bread, right off into the sunset, but like it might be time for you to hang the cleats up and just let that go. But anyway, with the piece that I was watching, they were talking about how Sierra has officially changed her last name to Wilson, as well as Sierra and Little Future's new last name is Wilson. And I kind of wanted to hear some of you guys' take on that. Both women and uh, the women and the fellas. Like, how do you feel about your child, your biological child, taking the last name of someone else? And of course, women, it's hypothetical because most men don't take their wife's last name. But let's say this woman was worth whatever money and she's official and he's cool with it. Would you allow him, and he has custody of the son, would you allow the new woman to have his last name? How do you guys feel about that? And I think that's another one of those double standard topics too. While I'm waiting for you guys to type your comments in the comment section, because I see it happen all the time when it comes to young women with children getting remarried, and they never seem to have no problem with giving a new last name to their new husband last name to their child, whatever the case may be. But at the same token, if you even mention that to her, like, listen, I just found a new boo, and I'm gonna take her last name, and I wanted to change Julia last name to her last name too, and they like absolutely not. They willing to curse you out. They might pull out on you, but they don't have no problem on it when it comes to them doing this. That's why I said I want to hear some women perspective too. Yo, what's good, Thomas? Well, that wouldn't happen because I take care of mine. I get it, and I would expect, not to say that you are, but I would expect a lot of the women to take that position too. And the reason that I never really get into that whole um, dynamic is, or I don't get too invested in any of these like celebrity type relationships is because I don't know these people. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's wrong with social media these days, or the era that we living in with technology these days. Period, is because everybody has an opinion. Everybody acting like they was at the family cookout or the Juneteenth cookout right here with Russ and Sierra. They, all the intricacies of their relationships. You don't know, so your opinion doesn't really matter, even though you feel like it matters and you have the right to it. Don't nobody really care because you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? That's like me talking about a crisis that's going on in Japan right now. I don't know that there's a crisis even going on over there or what it is. So why do I see? Because I see a headline now, I'm gonna do a whole dissertation on this crisis in Japan when I don't even know what's going on. That's the way I look at it. Um, the reason that I say that is because who says that Future isn't an active father? Um, Other than reports, have you ever seen Sierra say that? Have you ever seen Future himself say that? I don't care. Like we see it's public record. 50 and his oldest son turmoil and what's going on with that. So that's a whole different thing. And I'm with 50 on that too. Like, dude, 87,000. You ain't want to acknowledge me till child support was up, but 80,000. You talking about you can't live off $80,000 a year? when you don't have some people that don't even make that, and you're just getting that just because you're my son, you don't even have to work for that. So yeah, I would be feeling some type of way if I was 50 in that situation too. But my point is, with the Future situation, we don't know that Future is not trying to be an active dad. We don't know if Future was a garbage dad. We don't know what his role is as a dad or whatever the case may be. All we know is that Sierra packed up and moved on. Now, once upon a time, that's the Sierra that I remember. I remember, and I haven't posted it yet, but I got it saved to some of my clips to show. It was an old award show in 2006, 7, whatever, whenever, way back when. And Sierra, this one when Sierra was that around the way girl. She wasn't this who she is now, this image. And she bring 50 out on there, 50 on stage with her, and she rocking out. And her and Future was a Bonnie and Clyde couple back in the day. You know what I mean? So the whole thing is we don't know the intricacies. You know what I mean? I don't know. I do know for a fact that I do know a lot of sisters, people that I actually love, a lot of females that I actually love, that they do play little games like that, even though they don't want to call it games. But the reality is, you play these little games all because your feelings are hurt, all because you're swole, all because it didn't work out for you. And I think that is irresponsible for your children to have to pay for decisions that you can't make or that you don't want to live with. I don't think that any man should ever put a child in a position where they're looking at their mother sideways and vice versa. I don't think a mother should ever put a child in a position where they're looking at their father sideways. As they get older, if they ain't crap, if they ain't care about you, if they ain't want to be a part of your life, they will show it over the course of time. It is not your responsibility. It is not your job to be putting that in that child's ear or passive aggressively. You know, even though your father wasn't never there, I ain't never gave your father. I never told him he could be you know, it comes a time then all of a sudden you say, why every time mommy starts about daddy, she always talk about even though he wasn't in, even though he ain't paid no child support, even though he didn't do this here. Why you always leave? It's planting seeds in that child's head, and then it's gonna form a opinion of that father that might have been in a different situation. We seen Kanye in his documentary talk about that, how he didn't know till he was a grown man that his father put him in a situation where, you know, he always wondered like why his father was a piece of crap because his father didn't come looking for him and all that did. And then when he became a man, he found out that his mother told him the only way that she wasn't going to do XYZ is if he didn't look them up. That's the only way she was going to go peacefully or whatever the case may be. So now, at a 25, 30-year-old, however he old man, to find this out, now you got to reassess everything that you ever thought about your father, everything that you ever, any kind of way that you ever felt about your dad. So it's totally unfair. And you know, we love our mothers and we give our mothers unconditional passes. That's foul to me. I don't care how loving you are, who you are in church, or how big you are in the community, what you done for the community. You should never put your children in that type of position. Drew said, bro, I feel bad. My youngest daughter did that to me. I'm the bad guy, but I love her. I'm highly upset, but it is what it is. Man, I'm sorry to hear that, Drew. Your youngest daughter did what to you? As far as, if you can elaborate on that a little bit. Oh, she followed her mother because of marriage. Okay, got you. Yeah, and it's like that sometimes. It's like that sometimes, but and I'm like I said, I'm disappointed. I'm sad to hear that you experienced that, but I'm not ready. John says Future had to sign away his rights for that to happen, and apparently he did. And that's what I'm saying, Tom. I got to do more research. Or I got to see that for myself because a lot of times it's just like when it comes to divorce, right? You don't have to necessarily sign off for a divorce. You ain't got to be with a divorce. But if she put in the paperwork in a divorce to get a divorce, if your significant other put in the paperwork to get, and of course everything is different state by state. But just because somebody filed for divorce, just because you don't sign it, don't mean that you're not technically divorced. You can say I ain't never signed that joint. After a certain amount of time lapses, you are divorced, whether you signed that paperwork or not. And in some cases, I know like it was like that when I was living in Arkansas. It's the same thing when it comes to parenting. You know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily if the wife has primary custody, or if your ex-wife has primary custody, depending on what state you are in, and she gets remarried, You don't have to sign over nothing. You don't have to sign no paperwork. If she want to get that child that new husband's last name, she has the right to do it according to the state, to the way the states is set up. So I'm not jacking. I got to read that. I got to read about Georgia in particular, and what it's like in that county. But I got to see that Future actually signed away his rights, because I'm not sure that he did, especially the different things that I've seen from him. These little snippets here and there when it's talking about fatherhood, and it's so. That's why I don't believe that he would have signed that over, because it's like a touchy subject for him that he don't want to talk about, because a lot of times you don't want people to see that side of you, because it'll just make matters worse. I've seen situations where people often, why they don't do more for their child, and it's like, why they don't do more to be in their child's life. Now, one, we never ask that about mothers that give up their children to their mothers to raise them because they irresponsible or addicts or whatever the case may be, that they can't raise their own children. We don't have that. We have sympathy for that, but we don't always. Oh, the father, he wasn't this here. I know he was, man, this here and that there, but that's not always the case. In some cases, and especially if you know yourself, it might be better to have that conversation with your child whenever down the road, as opposed to trying to go there and then you doing something that you regret in the meantime, in real time. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you gotta woosah. You gotta let things cool down depending on how you are, because certain situations, when you force people's hands and put them in certain situations, you're gonna see a side of them that they didn't even know existed. So that's why I say that we got to be real careful when it comes to that type of things. But I don't think that any parent, or because we didn't work out, I don't think that you should ever try to not um, allow me to be a father, or for you to be a mother in your child's life. Um, I had a couple. I had friends that were couple for many years. They got divorced. I had a beautiful child, and when I say they cut off communication with one another, they cut off communication with one another. But it didn't never stop them. Okay, I'm gonna drop them off. When I drop her off at her house, at his house, we ain't got to talk. You know the address. You know what to do, which door to go with. Go spend time with your daddy. Ain't no hi, ain't no bye. We ain't got to communicate at all. Cool, but it didn't affect the parenting. You know what I'm saying? It might have been, of course, it was probably awkward for the child involved, because it's like, well, dang, they had to feel some type of way about each other once upon a time, which is not always true as we know as adults, because everybody is not conceived out of love, and the Hallmark Channel movies and stuff. Sometimes it's like, hey, it's one of those nights. It's different kind of conversations, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody's experience or how they came into existence, but everything isn't always a Hollywood production and a love story, so to speak. But a lot of times I would imagine that a child in that position would think, once upon it wasn't always like that. What happened? That's why I believe that when it comes to divorce, a lot of times, and I never understood this, like thank God that I have both of my parents, but from things that I've seen from people that I know that went through, that are products from divorce, and everything that you would see in the movies or whatever, but even in real time stories, it seemed like the children were always, the first thing that they ask themselves, well, is it my fault? Or I'll get better grades in school, like thinking that they're part of the problem, and that pertains to the parenting. And it's like I always wonder, like, why is it about, what is it about children's brains or their development that will be the first thing that they think of, that is their fault, that the parents aren't working out or getting a divorce. You know what I mean? Is it my fault? Like, what instinctively within us would make us automatically, that would be our first thing that we think of. I always thought that was pretty interesting in the cases that I know about and things pertaining to that, because I wouldn't think that it had anything to do with me if my parents were to break up. Either he did something or she did something, or one was tired of the other, or whatever the case may be. But I wouldn't think that it was necessarily something that I did. But it's easy for me to say that too. That's like Monday morning quarterback. That's easy for me to say, not being in that position. But I always just thought that was a particular take that a lot of children would, feel that way. Like maybe they was a possible reason that they're not happy anymore. But yeah, I don't know. But if it was me personally, no, absolutely not. because nah, we ain't gonna get into that. I believe that there because no, I don't want him to go down and make a history. If I'm actively in my child's life, and I've actively been there, I don't care what happened to you, me and you, or who you marry. You go off and do whatever you want to do. My children will be not having no other last name, um, as long as I'm alive. Period. It's like my boy Tony said, all I got in this world is my word, my kahunas, and my name. So nah, we not doing that when it comes to the name at all. That's not even an option. You could do whatever you want to do with your name, but you're not changing my kid's last name. Because God forbid you get remarried, you leave me, you marry somebody else, and change the kid's last name. Then you wind up divorcing them and have to marry someone. Like now the child gonna be on their third last name. Again, keep that separate. Keep you and the children separate. You can do whatever you want to do with it. You can change your name 20 times for all I care. You ain't changing my children's name. No, period. Just like I would never do that to, one of them. I just like again, I'm just speculating. I just think I've never been put in those type of positions. You know what I mean? And never think nah. But anyway, what else was it? You said the key word active. All right, yeah, and I respect that. I respect that. I respect that perspective. But at the same time, I look at it. I look at it differently too. Tom, I always it's two sides to every coin. Whether I'm active or not, my name is my name. And let's say, for example, um, I have a child with a young lady, Sister Strawberry, Miss Strawberry. Me and Miss Strawberry have a child. Things don't work out romantically with me and Miss Strawberry. I'm like, yo, I'm moving to Cali. You know what I mean? What you gonna do? Well, if you move to California, then I'm taking your son from you. Yada yada yada. Now, that might be a choice that I say, you know what? First of all, you're not going to dictate to me what I can and what I can't do. Now, if you want to use the child for the pawn, now you're going to have to give account for this as well once this child is of age. But the reason I say the active, I get what you're saying as far as active, but it doesn't carry as much weight to me because even though I might not be active, right? Or people's definition of active, because I chose to move to California, excuse me, for a better way of life, financially or whatever the case may be, or new opportunities. Doesn't mean that my family, that's my immediate family, my brothers, my sisters, my parents, doesn't mean that they're not a part of his active life, and they have that same last name too. So just because I'm not, it's like last names are a part of legacies. That's why they carry so much weight. You know what I mean? That's why not, I think it's cool when you got when you become of age. Like I got friends that grew up with their step parents' last name for the majority of their lives, but when they came adults, they went back to their biological father's last name, whether that father was there or not. And the reason I say that's another situation, Tom, another hypothetical. Like sometimes you might not be active because you unalive or you doing a stint, you doing 30 years. So you can't be but so active is that to me that shouldn't warrant um well that shouldn't be a criteria on of whether or not my child can have my last name because a lot of times in men minds we have children to carry on the legacy. You know what I mean? To carry on our last name so that our last name won't die in the earth. I even know a homosexual like that was saying that they wish they had children because their last name is going to die with them. You know what I mean? I of course I never thought about things like that. Um, but it's something that from a man's perspective, it's definitely something to think about. Juice said I've been active until I went to prison. I kept in touch. I got her money when she wanted. My child mother said I will never see her because of all the women I was sleeping with. My older child mother was bringing her to see me though, and and that's my point. Thanks for sharing that, Drew. That's my whole point because you know we could use the word active, right? But the deeper question to me, in my personal opinion, is why are you active or why are you not active? There might be actual circumstances beyond you that this woman has put in place that you can't be active or you can't be involved as much as you possibly will want to. And it's really unfortunate. I know many people that are in those type of situations and have grown up and lived with it the majority of their lives. It is not that child's fault, nor is it always the parent's fault that they didn't have a more active role in their child's life. I know far too many cases, like personally, like that, where it's just to me it's being selfish. It's being selfish, and you're robbing your children of love. You're robbing children of effectiveness, all because you're mad because he's sleeping with other women. You're not the only one that he's sleeping with in the situation that Drew typed in. Um, because here's the other thing. It's like, and I talked about this on previous shows before when we talk about absentee parents or absentee dads, right? For a child, right? And let's use that example, Drew. Um, she said no, you can't be involved in her life because you still sleeping with other women, right? How dare you get to make that decision, right? And here's the reason that I say that is because let's say I'm not active in the child's life, or I'm not present physically in the child's life, is because I'm a traveling musician, or I made it to the league. I'm on somebody's practice squad, or whatever the case may be. Oh well, it's different then because I'm making money. So, oh, you excused from being absent. That ain't the same thing. No, when you're not present, you're not present. I don't think the reason why pertains that much to you. You know what I mean? Like I've shared it on the show um, previously before. I remember playing football and whatnot. It was cool to me, and I used to hate it all the time. And it's like I just think it's the male in me, but it used to bother me all the time, especially growing up in high school in the '80s and the '90s, and even earlier than that. But you see all these dudes on college football Saturday, and they score these touchdowns and doing a post game interview, and it's like, "Hi, mom." Like your mom wasn't your coach, your father. You know what I mean? Even if your father wasn't there, like what about your coaches and all that? Thing? It's like we always giving these moms all these love, but they ain't had nothing to do with you going to football except for baby drop you off to practice or being a team mom, giving out oranges and whatnot the case may be. And shout out to the mothers that are active as well. But you know, like I just wanted that feeling of being able to look up in the stands and see my pops, and it's like growing up all these years thinking that my father ain't seen until I looked at one of the yearbooks and here it is, my father, and rest in peace to Big Clay. Him and my father standing shoulder to shoulder in the stands, and I'm like, yo, I never knew Daddy seen me play football, but he actually did. He was actually there in his work uniform at that. You know what I mean? Like, wow. Like, but it meant something to me to be able, even though I didn't remember that. So it was like something I had been feeling and something that I've been harvesting and dealing with for all these many years to see this old picture 20, 30 years later, like, wow, I always felt some type of way because dad never seen me play, but he actually did see me play. I just didn't remember that he felt me play. So I feel like an idiot for feeling the way that I felt all these many years. You see what I'm saying? So it's levels to why we got to be real careful when we talk about that word active because there are different reasons why people are active and why they're not active. And that's just in my opinion. But that's not fair to not let you see, you know what I mean? Because I wouldn't be like, you can't see your mother because she out there sleeping around with everybody else. Well, you already know. And I talked about that too. Again, and I'm not trying to make it this male versus female thing, but another hypothetical I used to always ask people too, like if you got 5 or 6 let's say five to seven different siblings, right? And the only thing y'all have in common is your mother. But out of five to seven, your mother got three to five different baby daddies. Is your mother not considered a jump off? How you look at all these other chicks, your age, that got all these children by different men? Does that same mentality does not apply to your mother? Or would the father be wrong to say, well, look, you see how many different baby daddies she got, so I ain't letting you spend no time with your mother. It's like we never look at it from that side of the coin. And I think that's being dismissive or selectively choosing to, go use a double standard. But it's something to think about to me, you know what I mean? Because there are situations that's like that, even though it might be far and few in between. That is somebody's story, you know what I mean? But you rarely hear cases where the men say, look, you see all the baby daddies she got. No, I refuse. I'm not taking you to see your mother. You not to have no contact with her or anything else. I don't see a lot of men doing that. You see more. You see quite a few women that have that approach, but you don't see that many men that have that approach. Um, excuse me. Yeah, that was it for that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, while I still got a few of y'all in here, I was seeing this. I'll save that for next week too. I had another two more topics, but the last one, I seen an article where did I save it? I think I saved it just for the show tonight too. Yeah, okay. There was a young man by the name of Christopher Abate, Abeyta. When you get a chance, you can look it up. The last name is the first name is Christopher. The last name is Abeyta. Long story short, this young man he's been missing, I believe, since 1985, out of Colorado, and they just released a AI, whatever they call it, like the progressive, what he may look like now. The point I'm making is they're still searching for this young man that's been missing since 1985 or 86. One or the other. He's like 39 or whatever now. And this is no, I believe he was 7 months. If I remember correctly, he was 7 months when he was taken. The older sister said she remembered playing with him and feeding his bottle. His mother said that they put him to bed, and when they got up the next morning, he was removed from his crib, and the bottle was left behind, but the baby was gone. There was no forced sign of entry of somebody breaking in. There was no forced entry or whatever the case may be. The mother passed away in 2017, but she was still in search. This has been a missing person open case since 1986 at the very least. My question is, how does that even work? Like, how long do you get to have a missing person case before? Is it just a money thing? Is it a status thing? Is it a and of course you want to keep on looking for your child or whatever the case may be, but 30 plus years, that seems to be a bit excessive, especially if you're not doing it of your own will or your own or at your own expense. I think that's kind of a long period of a time when it pertaining to the state in particular. They were in Colorado. This happened in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Um, but I'm like, I could have swore I've seen on these different shows and the ID channel and the different shows that they got coming on. I don't watch a lot of them, but I'm sure I've seen that they have situations where after sometimes 6 months, sometimes after 2 years, okay, look, ain't no need for us to look no more. We're gonna have to close this case. How do you go? How do you have a missing person case for over 30 years? That's my real question. I was wondering if you guys have heard about this or any of you guys seen this, if you had a take on it. Because it just made me wonder, like, how long would you look for your significant other? It made me think about what's the movie with Tom Hanks? Oh man, I hate this because I'm like the movie expert. The movie with Tom Hanks when he went to soccer ball and he worked for FedEx at the time, and he gets stuck over there on the island. He had to live for like 8 years by himself and get rescued. What is the name of that movie? But like, you see how he was all in love and everything. By the time he got shipwrecked and the plane went down and what have you, and next thing you know, he survived. He loses his mind. Gets it back. He comes back to civilization and is restored and go to pick up the love. Finally, the love of his life was one of those. The memories of his girlfriend or fiance at the time was one of the things that kept him going because he got to get back to her. He got to get back. Thank you, Monty. Thank you, Monty. Hey, what's good, bro? Hey, man, y'all post about Chase be having me dying. Yo, keep him coming, man. I like the way Chase think, though. That was I got a lot to say. Yo, thank my Castaway. But I remember feeling some type of way watching that movie too, because it's like if I was really the love of your life, right, and something like this happened to me, how long would it take before you move on and rebuild your life, or just think that I ain't gonna never show back up? You know what I mean? I don't went through hell and high water to get back to you. Now to come to find out, you just forgot about me. You done packed up and moved on and living your best life with this new cat. Like, so even as a parent though, like I'm saying, not saying that you should ever stop looking for your child, but 30 years, that's a bit excessive. Again, if y'all haven't seen it, please go look that story up. And again, his name is Christopher Abete. Last name is spelled Abeyta. And we might be able to revisit it next week. But I kind of wanted to hear somebody take on that there. But I'll give y'all a week to get it together, do your due diligence on the story. And I got to get you back on here too, Monty, so we can chop it up, man. It's been a minute. Kev was asking me about you not too long ago too. Matter of fact, the last time I talked to him, say how my man doing. I was like, yeah, because I thought that was a pretty good show that we did when Israel and Palestine first started their whole issue, their whole war issue, but war over there. But yeah, I'm getting ready to get out of here. So I can go grab me something to eat, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, but definitely look that story up because we're gonna revisit that next week as well. How long we how long would you go before, and even if the authorities, like I said, I know for a fact, I've seen it in situations where the authorities say, listen, we're gonna have to close this case, unfortunately. You know what I mean? There's no point in us keeping this case open anymore. How far would you go if they're trying to close this case? And here it is, like over 30 years. And like I said, the mother is even gone. That's why I say I'm gonna do more due diligence on my end as well, because I haven't heard anything from the father or any response from the father. I heard what the mother said, even her last interview before she passed away, the sister, but I haven't heard anything from the father. The father was in the house as well. The father was still there actively, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna do more due diligence, but I want to give y'all a little bit of homework so we can discuss this again next week. And another one, just a little fun fact, or just hypothetical without everything that's heavy going on. I wanted to get into what's one of the saddest deaths that you've seen in either film or television history? What in your perspective? That way, it's just not a random question. We'll revisit that next week as well. Give you a little time to think about it. Some different ones. I seen this post about it, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a good question for the show." But since you've been growing up, what are some of the saddest or the most difficult deaths that you've seen in TV history or in movie history, in your personal opinion? Ones that's kind of stuck with you or felt like a family member, whatever case may be. And we'll get into that next week. But I hope everybody has a good, safe week, a productive week. Again, shout out to my boy Carmelo Anthony. Um, my girl Maya Moore, and everybody else, Sue Bird, everybody else that was into the Hall of Fame, even Dwight Howard. I don't think he was worthy, but nonetheless, he's a Hall of Famer. Um, Shout out to all those guys, but Carmelo in particular. Shout out to Melo on the Hall of Fame induction. Uh, and oh yeah, got my shirt on too. Florida State. Let's go Seminoles, baby. Let's go Seminoles. We handing out. This is gonna be a productive season from us. I don't even remember what our final score was the other day. I turned it off when it was 62 to something, 262 to 0 maybe, or 70 to 0. I was like, nah, they ain't even no need to watch this from a fan's perspective. I think we played 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. So we look. I like the way we look this season. Uh, but yeah, I'll get with you guys next Tuesday night. My man Terry Hardy will be on with me. Like I said, we're gonna get into this fatherhood things and what can we do effective immediately when it comes to these YNs and seen a lot of these conversations, and it's like a lot of times, they're saying that they're out of control, they don't have any discipline, they don't have any of that there. But like I said, I've seen situations and times where you know people will step up and try to discipline them, but the moms are putting a stop to that, and then we wonder why they are the way that they are when we're not allowed to discipline them or careful in the way that we see fit, so to speak. And like I said, we're gonna get into that next week, and that'll give y'all guys time to think about it, different perspectives as well, so you can get in the comments, whatever. But I appreciate you all as usual, man. I know that I love you all. Continue to love one another. Keep continue to pray for one another, and be intentional about the time that this present that God gives us each day that He does this present called time. Um, let's be intentional how we use it and make sure that we love on each other while we yet can. It's very imperative and it's very important because once they're gone or once we are gone, we're gone. That's it. All you have is the memories and pictures. I always say I've been saying that my whole life. At the end of the day, I think that when we leave this earth, the only thing that we have is pictures and memories a lot of times. And then sometimes you don't even have memory. You got Alzheimer's and things of that nature, dementia. So sometimes you can look at a picture and you don't even remember. But I've seen sometimes where people don't even have those kind of skills anymore. They can't speak or whatever. They see a picture and they can't verbalize what's going on, but it triggered a memory for them. So let's be real intentional about spending time with the loved ones that we do love, and letting people know whether it's physically or whatever. Just pick up the phone, nothing like it. Let's be intentional with the love that we have toward one another. Um, and I'll see you guys next week. As usual, signing off, DeAndre and Elisha. Know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Till next week, peace.